Right out the gates, we have to talk about the intro to Last Raven. My god, this intro is not only my favourite in the series, it's just generally one of my all-time favourite intros to a video game. Up there with the likes of Soul Blade, which might just be the best intro to a fighting game. Just saying. I mean, there are many contenders. But going back to Last Raven, it does such an amazing job of building this nihilistic war atmosphere. I'm still waiting for a mech game that plays like this. Because you see, Armored Core intros have the habit of lying. Whether that's showing you an AC that can't be built because it will be overweight, or in many cases where weapons don't function in the same way in-game, as is the case with BJ's destructive railgun. Even though I do like that gun, it is most definitely not what the intro suggests. But yeah, the intro is just epic. When I sit down and think about it, Last Raven is low-key my most played Armored Core game. It's the game I've streamed the most on this very channel. Even though I rate a few other games over it, yet I cannot deny the amount of hours I've put into this game. I mean, I think the missions in Armored Core 3 and Silent Line are the most fun in the series. Not that Last Raven's missions are bad. In fact, Last Raven is kind of like Silent Line's brutal, colder brother. Quite an unforgiving experience where you will learn the truth about your own skill level. One of Last Raven's biggest selling points is the amount of parts the game has. It is like being a kid and having all the Lego parts to play with. This means you almost have an endless supply of what you can build, which it's no surprise I have multiple memory cards filled with various builds. It is by far the most builds I have done on a single Armored Core game. It has nearly every part from Gen 1 up to Gen 3, meaning you can build all your favourite ACs from previous games up to this point, as this is the final game for old generation. Parts and weapons have different names from the past, and of course they play differently because it's late 3rd gen in Last Raven. But the idea you can still do this and see how your favourite old ACs perform in Last Raven is a big draw. FromSoftware went a step further and even put some old ACs in the arena for you to fight. Again, they have different names, but long-time players know exactly who they are. Things like this are great Easter eggs for fans and showed FromSoftware really went all out to end the series at a high at the time. You have to understand that for many players, Last Raven was the end of a beautiful relationship that started on the PS1. You beat Nineball, you survived Stinger's disco show, you became the master of the arena, you went to Mars and saved the planet, you lived another age, you took control of the controller, you got past the Silent Line, you survived the burning heat of Nexus, you graduated from the school of Ninebreaker. All of it led you here, the main event, you versus Last Raven. Who will leave the ring the undisputed champion? There can only be one Last Raven. Spoiler, it's you. This is why even though I love Last Raven, I never recommend it to new players. Not because it sucks, but because the game was made for long time players at the time, which is why the game is so brutal. It would be like me trying to get someone into shoot 'em ups and saying, yeah, go play Donpachi, which is a great game, but it's not a noob friendly game. I always point new people towards Armored Core 3 and Silent Line because those games are just fun and far easier going. If you enjoy those and then want a more serious challenge, then it is time for Last Raven. What makes the game so tough? Well, it really doesn't hold your hand. For example, there's many missions that have extended sections not planned for. In other Armored Core games, it will reset your AP and ammo. But in Last Raven, if you only had 100 AP left and 10 bullets, then tough shit, because that's exactly what you will start with going into the second phases of missions. This will make you think very carefully on how you handle the first phase. Again, just great game design. Last Raven also has one of the most famous missions in all of the Armored Core series, the infamous Distribution Center Recon mission. One of the 3 missions you can pick at the start of the game. So here you are as a new player ready to start your adventure in Last Raven Wonderland. The description of the mission is pretty simple. Do some recon, kill a few MTs, and sure enough that's what happens until you open the final door. And what is behind this door? Oh, it's just a boss, but it's not a stage 1 boss. No, this is a mid-game boss you're fighting right out the gates. To better explain it, it will be like Dark Souls 3. Where the first boss you encounter is Grundy, only imagine if they replaced him with Nameless King instead. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on here in Last Raven. But the AC you're fighting will make light work out of you since he is carrying a deadly LX cannon on his back. you'll then be greeted with the game over screen highlighted in red, which is usually the sign for danger. This will make most people throw the game in the bin and say it's trash, which is why the AC community dubbed this mission the noob trap. To me, it's just great game design. It's the game telling you you're not ready for this, go away, pick one of the other starter missions and come back when you've upgraded and learnt the game more. Sure enough, when you come back, you'll give Buck the beating he deserves. On a side note, when I was capturing footage for this video, I beat Buck so bad that he literally turned into a spirit before my eyes. In all my years playing this game, I've never seen this glitch happen, and I'm playing on a legit copy on a real PS2, so this isn't some emulation malfunction. I just found it funny. I guess it was a sign that this video was meant to be. Last Raven has the best user interface in the series. None of this backing out and out to get to something. No, Last Raven says screw all that nonsense. Since a large portion of your time is spent in the garage in AC games, it would make sense to have easy access to all your options. For whatever reason, FromSoftware decided to burn that all up with 4th generation onwards, and the menu and garage has never recovered to this level. I guess it's just another feather in Last Raven's cap. This is one of the few AC games that have people in it, and by that I mean that they're actually in the missions. These little EDF looking soldiers who will actually either try to fight you or run towards their helicopters or trucks, which is quite hilarious as you destroy them. The music in the game is one of those you love it or hate it. This is like your favourite artist making their 11th studio album and then they are bored, so do some crazy experimental beats that fans will either love or hate. That pretty much sums up Last Raven's soundtrack. Some tracks I really like, some others not so much. Last Raven's story is essentially Highlander. There can only be one Raven left alive at the end of the game, and of course it's your job to make sure it's you. We are in the last 24 hours of an all-out war. I mean, Armored Core games usually have some apocalypse-like story where the world has gone to crap, but in the case of Last Raven, this is really it. The last 24 hours before everybody dies. The corpse versus Ravens. Who will survive? What adds to the story is the interesting individuals that you will come up against, like Evangel, Jacko and Zenaida, who will serve as your main rival. What always made me laugh is the salty emails Zenaida keeps sending you throughout the game. True fourth wall breaking stuff here, as I'm sure we have all received a salty message from some player you beat online.
Where's Zenaida?
The game also has perhaps the most routes you can take in the series. While there are 6 endings with one true ending where you become the last Raven alive, the paths you can take to get there are plenty. This also adds to the replay value in a big way. Thinking about it, Last Raven is like a good shoot 'em up, because no matter how many times you play it, you can't ever take things lightly. If you play sloppy, you'll get punished. That's another thing that keeps me coming back. It's a game that just has limitless challenge, which is why I still play it so many years after its release. I recommend it only after you played a few of the other games, namely any other old gen game. You'll appreciate Last Raven that much more after.